Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The Decision Hour. I am your host, Adam Bird, and I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm excited because I got another great interview lined up for you today. I recently met this young lady. I was on her show, and I tell you what, she's full of energy, full of life, and she's adding value to the world. And I got a ton of respect for her. And I'm just very appreciative that she took time out of her busy schedule, and we're going to hear about that here in a minute, to join us on the show today. She is, it'd probably be easier to start off with what she doesn't do. She's a fashion designer. She's a figure competitor. She is a beauty queen. She is a podcast host, C-level executive. Again, it's one of those what doesn't she do. So without further ado, Deanna Kuempel, how are you today?
Oh my gosh, Adam, you're going to make me cry. And of course, the dog appearance. That was like, I'm like tearing up over here. I am good. I'm honored to be here on your show. Thank you so much for that very generous introduction.
Absolutely. I love it. And I love the dog in the background. He's adding to the hype. Pumping it up. Love it.
He talks about having the life. Like my home is full of life. 2 dogs, 2 cats, and of course me and my crazy energy.
I love it. Well, listen, let's dive into this. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Oh boy. Well, you kind of covered a lot of it already, but yeah, I'm very type A personality, like overachiever. I get an idea in my head, I go after it. You're not the first person that has said that to me. What don't you do? Because one of the last presentations I did, my friend afterwards, she's like, I thought I knew you, and even my aunt was like, you're my family, you're my niece. Right. And I did not realize some of the stuff that you've done. But yeah, I'm actually a former executive, former vice president. My husband passed away about 5 years ago, and I had to kind of figure out my whole life after that, rebuild my life. And through this last 5 years, it's been an amazing journey. It hasn't been easy, don't get me wrong. But I'm one that definitely chases her dreams. I'm very goal oriented, and I did do the fashion designer thing. I did 3 collections. I was on the runway in Rhode Island for Style Week. I was a finalist for the Cadillac Design Challenge here at Style Chicago. Wow. I did a huge charity event against human trafficking in 2019. I had over 300 people, brought 300 people together. I mean, it was just an amazing, amazing event. And then, I do have a skincare line that is still active right now. And then actually in 2019, it was like, stop, you're going to make me.
It's like one of those, and then? I freaking love it.
And then I started my podcast in 2019. I am a figure competitor. I was 2 weeks out last year. I'm hopefully on track to hit the stage this year. Right. If everything goes well, around all COVID and all that stuff. But I'm in the gym typically twice a day if I can make it.
And that's a lot. There's so many things I want to talk. There's so many things that I'm interested in, which is why I love following you. And I'm so glad that we connected, because it's like you have such an incredible story on everything that you just heard, folks, for the last 2.5 minutes, and everything that she does. It's really amazing. Where to begin? I want to start. Let's start. You mentioned your fashion label. Let's touch on that just real quick. How did you get into that? Was it just like you wake up one morning and, hey, I can't find anything I like on these racks. I'm going to create it myself. Like, how does one go about just starting that?
No, I love fashion. I've always been into fashion. Like, I dress, I dress. I love clothes. I love style. That's part of my creative nature.
Right.
And I had told my late husband always, like, I want to get into fashion. I want to get into fashion. And after he passed, I just was like, I'm just going to go after it. I'm just whatever. I've gone to school for business and all. I don't have a background in fashion, so it was a really intense learning process. I found a company out of New York that I basically worked with to help me with the whole design process.
Yeah.
So they helped me create the first collection. But then when I went to I actually did a Kickstarter. I had a successful Kickstarter. I raised over $5,000 to produce my first collection because I had orders.
Nice.
And when I went to go use them to produce those pieces, my inventory, like what they quoted me was completely what they originally quoted me was completely different than when I actually placed the order. So I had to scramble and actually source every single part of that at that point from that first collection forward.
Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, talk about having like 10 jobs. You think that I do a lot now.
Yeah.
Like I had to do all that. And I was working like 4 jobs. So I was still rebounding from my husband, from like my lifestyle being taken away.
Yeah.
And it was, at least I know, like I know if I ever want to get into fashion, I would do things a lot differently. Like I know I sourced the fabric, I sourced the pattern makers, I sourced the fit models, I sourced it all.
Yeah.
And it was quite the process. But fashion, as much as I love it, and I will always, that's probably going to always be my first love. It is not an industry I really think that I want to get involved in because the margins are just way too small. And it's just, people are weird about their clothes. I can design, I have a $50 beautiful V-neck t-shirt for men and women, but it's going to cost them $50 versus like the $5 one you can buy at Walmart. Most people are going to buy that $5 one at Walmart.
Right. But
I'm not Coco Chanel. I mean,
no,
I would
but,
love to be.
Right. But I've learned because suits are kind of like my thing. So it's like I'll spend it. I don't mind dropping several $100s on a nice suit if I know the quality of it is there. Sure. It's different. It's like, do I want to buy a t-shirt for $5 that might last me 6 months, or do I buy a t-shirt that's $40-$50 that's going to last me for 10 years.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I get it. It's almost like comparing a Lamborghini to a Geo Metro or something like that. I don't know, whatever. So,
yeah.
Well, that's okay. So that was fashion. Now let's move into the fitness side of things. How did you get into that? Because I was a personal trainer in another life, and I miss going to the gym as often as I did. And so what prompted that? Was just is that like a release for you? And then how did that tie that into like competing?
So I've been very blessed to be surrounded by very strong, influential women. My mother, I'm the oldest of 5. My mother I've always watched her work out as I've grown up. So when I was like 13, I started doing her firm workouts. I used to get up and I would run at like 5 o'clock in the morning before school. I mean, you're talking about 13, 15 years old.
Wow.
So then when I got into high school, I really got into lifting weights, and I would stay after school and I would lift weights with the football players. And so then that just translated as I got a little bit older. At 18, I was an aerobics instructor at Women's Workout World, and I went and got certified as a personal trainer. And then, then I got to do being a dietitian. And so then as you get a little bit more experience and you educate yourself around health and fitness, then you find the world of bodybuilding,
right.
And so then it was like, oh, that's awesome. I want to be a competitor, being the type A personality that I am. And so I've competed for like 20 years, not like every single year, but I'll go like a couple of years, compete, do a bunch of shows, take a couple of years off, as time is willing,
right.
Time is available, because that is very time consuming.
Right.
And it's a very selfish sport. And you have to be very like focused, and a lot of people don't understand it. They don't understand like that discipline that comes with it. So me, I can go out, I can go hang out with people at the bar and not drink, and I'll bring my food in my little case, and then people look at me like, oh my God, what's this girl doing? She's a freak. But that's what you have to do if you want to reach that level of excellence.
Right.
So from like 20 something years old, I discovered competing and I fell in love with it, and I've been doing it ever since.
And that's such a hard sport. I tried it back in the day, and it was my problem is I don't have the word portion control, or the phrase portion control. So it was like when it was time to diet, it was I'm a foodie. You know, people that listen to the show know I'm a foodie, so it's like, oh, there's food. Yeah,
I love food too. Don't get me wrong.
I'm
But you know what
that.
though? It's really good to take that break and have that discipline and really focus and dial in on that, because during that time period, at least for me, because I'm all natural, and for me during that period of just being that focused and disciplined, it's like you grow. You really grow on the internally and really see what you're made of. And every single time, like there's incredible growth for myself personally.
Well, you're testing yourself. It's a test, really, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Discipline is a test.
Yeah.
That's a muscle. You have to work that.
Yeah.
It doesn't come on its own.
Yeah. That's so true. And one of these days I'm gonna get there. Just like I'm slowly getting back into it. Well, age isn't important, but I'm slowly getting back into it now, and I'm feeling better that I'm getting back into it, and that the fitness is such a
no excuse is a good excuse.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So let me see here. Where to next? Here we go. No, I want to touch on this briefly because I feel that this topic is very important, especially in the world today. But you had brought up human trafficking awareness a couple of times in this interview already. What was that experience, or you're raising money? Do you mind sharing your experience with the human trafficking, or what draw you to raising money for that purpose?
Sure. So I'm a survivor myself, and there's many different levels and of human trafficking. I think people have this idea that it's just like what's the Liam Neeson movie? Taken.
Yeah.
I think they have an idea that that's what it is, and there's a lot of that. Right. There's definitely a lot of that, and but there's the little kid that's being molested at home, being passed around to the family. That there is like someone like me that had gotten involved with someone bad, and a bad boyfriend, and got into sex work. And then there's, there's just many different levels.
Right.
And, people just don't realize that falls under that category. Right. So for me, as I've gotten older here and I've started facing my past and facing some of my demons and just trying to forgive myself so that I can be the best person that I can be.
Right.
I was a part of a networking group called DPWN, and I heard this woman, she went to an event and she spoke to all of us, and she talked about her past and being a survivor and her charity. And I was like, wow, I was blown away that this woman had that courage to talk about it. And so at that point I was like, I need to support this. I didn't, nobody really knew at that point that I had ever had any of involvement except some of my family members.
Right.
And obviously some ex-boyfriends.
Right.
Well, ex-boyfriend I should say. And so I reached out to them, and then I was like, let me do something. And I sat down with her husband first, and I talked to him about what I wanted to do. And then I met with her. And then from there, I just organized this huge event, and I got hundreds of people together. And it was me. I was one of the designers. It was a runway show. And it was huge production. Like, if I do something, it's not going to be small. I think you probably I think you can gather that at this point.
Like everything that I've seen you do, just in meeting you, like for the last couple of weeks and just following you, I was just like, there's nothing small. It's like, no, but I love that about you though. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. So at that point I was kind of like, I have a mission, and if there's something that I'm going to tie myself, I support many charities, don't get me wrong. Right. I think if we can help someone in any facet of life, that is really what our goal is here. We are put here to do that on this earth. And I think a lot of people miss the mark, right? But if I'm going to do something and raise awareness and put my energy and do like a whole campaign, that's what I'm going to be focused on. So now I'm tied to Refuge for Women Chicago, and I'm and I'm doing a large food and craft drive here in the local Chicagoland area, which is it's a big undertaking in addition to everything else. But it's cool, man. We do not know our limits until we push ourselves to it. Right. And once you think you've gotten there, you've reached your limit, you can go even further.
Right. Amen to that. Amen to that. Well, my hat's off to you, because I think I've had the human trafficking side of it. I have made it very public that I'm that the people that decide that they want to traffic people, regardless of age or how it's done, or you're forcing somebody to do certain things that it's just inhumane. And I there's a special place in hell for people that do that. I grew up going to church and stuff, but it's like, listen, this is one of those exceptions to the rule where like somebody just needs to,
So I'll just share a quick story, and I don't, there's a disclaimer. Please. It's very disturbing. So when I sat down with the first charity that I was working with, they told me that they would rescue 6-month-old babies that had been basically trafficked. And when they took this baby to the hospital, they were pulling stuff out of her because of what they were doing to her. Like I can't even wrap my head around someone who wants to do that to a 6-month-old baby. That's terrible.
It's unreal. It seems unreal.
Yeah.
But it's very real. It's
very real.
It's very,
people
very
they don't want to know.
No.
People don't want to.
Well, that's the problem. We live in a lazy society.
Yeah. Calm down.
We live in a lazy society, and people want to just turn their cheek and just be like, "Oh, that doesn't really happen." Well, you're ignorant and you're a moron, but that's fine. Whatever.
Yes.
So,
agreed.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your experience with that. Listen, you do a ton of stuff. You're also a podcast host, and we're going to get into that here in just a second.
Sure. But
for people that want to reach out to you and they want to follow you, where can they find you?
Everywhere. I'm very public. There's nothing shy about me. My family, some of my family members won't even be connected with me on social media because of how public I am.
She's posting again. Yeah.
What's that?
She's posting again. Yeah.
Well, they just are concerned because of how popular I am, I guess. I put that in quotation marks because I am a very humble person, that they just, because of the children, they don't want to have any connection there, just in case I get some kind of weirdo that wants to come after me and my family and stuff. So, which is totally fine. But I'm on Instagram, Label Free Podcast. That's my podcast page. I am on, I have a Deanna Marie _lifestyle on Instagram. That's like my workout page, which I'm having a really hard time keeping up with that because of everything else. I'm on Facebook, Deanna.Kuempel. I do have another one, but it was hacked last year, so I don't have any control over that. As you said, I have a podcast, so I'm streaming on every single platform, and I'm on YouTube, Label Free Podcast, and then I'm also on LinkedIn, Deanna Kuempel, Kuempel.
And we're gonna put all her contact information so you guys can follow her and whatnot. And seriously, follow her. Like you'll be glad that you did.
You won't be bored, that's for sure.
You definitely.
Especially if I have a good night and I've been drinking, you'll really like that. Because then I can't. Then you really see the raw unedited version.
Yeah. You want entertainment, folks? I'm telling you, follow her on. Yeah, definitely. And seriously though, check her. Check out the social media pages. We're gonna have those up. Label Free Podcast.
Yes.
What does that mean? Label free. What does that mean?
So I feel like most people get caught up in allowing society to put labels on them, live in that little box, live in the White House or in the house with a white picket fence, have 3.5 kids with the 2 dogs, whatever. And you have to be this way. You have to go to college. You have to do this. And there are a lot of people that feel that way. And I feel to live your best life, you need to live label free and not allow those societal expectations to hold you back. And it really applies to anyone. I love talking to dynamic people like yourself that have, broken out of that mold per se, and are living a dynamic life and being a dynamic example for other people. Because I think that this world, especially things that we've gone through this last year, really, really needs that.
Right.
And it's almost like a wake-up call for some people. I get thank yous on a daily basis for my podcast and, how it's helped certain people. And that is all I can hope for.
Listen, if you're listening to the show right now, folks, it means you're already online. So open up another browser and go to labelfreepodcast.com and check out the show. You've done a ton of episodes already.
Yeah.
And you have not been podcasting for very long.
No.
At least I say very long because I've been doing it for a while, almost a decade. So how did you get into podcasting? Like what prompted that? Was it again one of those moments where you're just like, hey, I'm gonna wake up and I'm start a podcast?
Kind of, pretty much. So
really, okay.
So I got an email somehow like, oh, so how to start a podcast for under $100. And mind you, this was after I had just finished creating my last collection. And I was like, okay, I'm done with fashion. I got to find something new. And so I read this article. I was like, I'm just like, I told my cousin, I'm like, I don't know who the fuck I think I am, but I'm starting to.
What are you doing now? Starting a podcast. Oh, fuck, are you like a radio host now? What are you doing? Yeah, pretty much.
So my best friend and I were talking, and I'm like, what do you think? And I told her like my idea, and she helped me come up with the name. Julie, if you're listening to this, which I'm sure you will, I love you dearly, and thank you for all of your support over the years. And it has really resonated with almost every single person that I come in contact. So I'll just tell you, so after I start, like recently, yesterday, I sent out a mass email to like 86 people because I got all these notifications from all these people on this other platform that want to be a guest.
Right.
So in less than 24 hours, I've had 40 people book a call with me to be a guest on my show.
Isn't that crazy how that goes though? And it doesn't surprise me. One, I've been on your show and I think you're a great host. One of the things that impresses me, and it's hard to impress me when it comes to other podcasts and stuff like that, is because it was the connection that we have and that you have with people. Your energy is awesome, and you just make people feel very welcome.
Good.
So I think, and that's why I had a blast on it, and I'm having a blast now. It's like
you just keep laughing at me. It's a giggle fest.
I love it though. How often are you putting out content with the podcast?
Because I have been recording so much, I'm up to 4 times a week. So I actually been like pre-scheduling all of my episodes now, moving forward, just because it takes a lot off my plate, especially with how things have ramped up.
Yeah.
And I love hearing people's stories. Like I don't have any expectation, but I just want to connect with you.
Right.
And I want you to tell me, because I think we honor others in this space when we allow them to tell that story, and not only tell that story to me, but to share it with the world, because that person's story can resonate with someone else. And it's a domino effect of that positive energy that can be spread. And so that I absolutely just love it so much. I can't even tell you. I do get a little burned out. And when I do, I have to take a break from the emails and all that stuff. But I mean, other than that, like I probably start, because of how much I've been recording, I'll probably be like bumping that up to 5 days a week. So
God bless you, because it's not an easy task, because it's literally like a part-time job.
Oh yeah,
it really is. And depending how often you do it, it could be more than that even. But it's an education piece that I think is what your show is, and that kind of I'm glad you bring that into it, because it kind of transitions as we're getting coming up on time.
Yes,
here.
And I have to. My battery's running low. Can I just run and plug it in?
Yep, go ahead. Yep.
I'm sorry, the dogs pulled it out. So hold on 1 second. Hey, it's nothing but real life here, right?
And ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time on the Decision Hour where an incident like this has happened, and we absolutely love this because it doesn't get any more real than this. All right.
That wasn't so bad. It was a second.
I got a question for you. I ask every guest. You're on a show called The Decision Hour. Name a time in your life where your feet were on the line and you had to make that decision. What was that decision, and what was the atmosphere like for you at that time?
Holy crap. That's a good one. I mean, I feel like every day
Yeah.
to get up and live your life in purpose is like the decision that you have to make, you know? And I think a lot of people, there's many people that don't know how to make a decision to save their lives. And it's almost like committing suicide, you know? And the easiest thing you can do is just decide what kind of person you want to be, how you want to start your day, and just get up and be that example for the world. That's at least what I've come to in the last 5 years is, I could have lived my life in misery and been bitter and like, oh my God, everything was taken away from me. My husband passed away. Or I just could decide I just want to be a happy person and just be the best person I can be and just keep moving forward, you know?
Damn. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's freaking awesome. That's so good. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. Folks, that's all the time that we have today. We're going to have all of our information put up on the website, Heroes Media Group, The Decision Hour. You can also make sure you go to labelfreepodcast.com. You will not be sorry. Until next time, you've been listening to The Decision Hour.